are still joining pretty solidly, so we'll just give them a couple more minutes.
You going to have the entire speaker gang, or do you do this more than once?
Well, how it's going to work, we're doing this once. All the speakers have been invited, and then we're also recording this as well, and we'll distribute it to all the speakers if if they couldn't make it today, or if you just want to review some parts. So that's the plan.
Okay.
All right, it looks like we're kind of leveling out on the participants joining, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So good morning, everyone. Some of you might know me. It's good to see some familiar faces. My name is Allison Ward, and I'll be walking you through how to lead your live and pre-recorded sessions at the NALHFA Virtual Conference. So I will also be joined by my colleague Corey Sunder. Corey is a Pathwell expert. She's the one everyone goes to over here. So she'll be helping me navigate through the site and answering any questions you might have. So throughout the presentation, feel free to submit questions through the Q&A box here in Zoom. Corey and I will keep an eye on that and respond throughout the presentation. As well, we'll kind of stop periodically for questions as well, so feel free to use that time to ask us anything. And like I mentioned, we are recording this session, and so we can distribute it after the fact to anyone who might not be able to attend, or if you just want to review any information that we go over. So today we're going to start with a walkthrough on how to join your session on the day of. And we'll also kind of discuss the format versus live and pre-recorded sessions. And then at the end, we'll provide kind of a high-level overview of the platform just to give you a holistic perspective on what Pathwell is. So to find your session, there are two ways to go about it. The first way is you navigate to the People tab on the top navigation bar, and you can click on Speakers, and then you'll go in and find your name, and you'll click into that, and that is your kind of profile page. So we'll see Mike. Mike is our lovely volunteer today. You'll see that his session is Hot Topics in Single Family Lending. So once you click on that, you're into the session, and that is the first way to kind of find your session. The second way is through the Schedule tab back on that top navigation bar. So you'll hover over that and you'll click on Agenda, and then you navigate to the date and the time of your session, and then that will take you to the same place as well. Yep, so here our example is the annual business meeting. So this is the same page as you notice from when we got in through the People tab. So just two ways to go about it. One's not better than the other, personal preference. So now we're going to talk about what the attendee sees during the session. So we're in an individual session. So the attendee can see when the session will start. You can see there's a little countdown. There is a chat where they can enter comments and questions. Now they could enter it up until through the recording. So you see Corey just sent a little test chat. So you can also update your chat after your live session here. This is just kind of where the discussion lives for the session. So if you click on the People tab over there, you can see who has added the session to the agenda. So as you may know, there's concurrent sessions happening. So two at the same time. So people will add it to their agenda, and then you can see who's specifically coming to your session. So that might be cool, whether you want to network with that or start a dialogue. So that might be helpful for you. So if you go down to the Files tab, back down, yep, right there. So you can add, or you can see any materials that the speaker or presenter of that session would like the attendees to see. So we'll get to this in a minute, but feel free to upload a PDF version of your presentation or any supporting documents. And then once the session starts, the session video will be visible where the description currently is. So kind of over there on the left-hand side, there'll be like a video screen popped up. So now we'll go into what you see as the speaker. So you're in your session kind of page right here. So you can see the general information about your session. You can see the files. Actually, let me back up. So to get into the back end of your session as the speaker, you're going to click on that manage button. That'll be your favorite button in the upper right-hand corner. So once you click on manage, this is the back end of your session that only you can see. So this is the general information. You can see this is, if you go under files, this is where you can add any file that you'd like. So if you maybe have a handout or a follow along or a PDF, feel free, this is the spot to add that. You'll also see the countdown clock. So this is, so it says 16 days, but 15 to 20 minutes before the start of your session, this countdown will turn into a join meeting button. So we ask that you join the green room 15 to 20 minutes before your session start time. So once you click on join meeting, it'll take you into a green room. And so this is where it's integrated with Zoom. And so as we are right now, it'll take you to something like this. And so then you will join the Zoom as a co-host. So an important note is the chat during your session will not be in the Zoom platform like we're using today. The chat itself will be back on your session page. So currently you're seeing what we see when we click on the manage button. You'll click back to meeting. And then you can see the chat, and that's what the chat will come up during the session where people can ask questions. But don't worry, we will have staff monitoring the chat throughout your session, so you don't have to worry about the two windows being open. All right, so I'll stop there. I know I covered a lot of ground. So are there any questions thus far?
Yeah, Allison, for the follow along, do you prefer PowerPoint or PDF? What's your preference, or you think the most effective?
For as far as files go?
Yeah, presentation materials for the speaker session.
Yeah, so I think I've seen in the past people upload PDF versions of their PowerPoint into the files tab. That way, attendees can follow along during your session. But as far as whatever you use during the session, I think we can talk about that in whether your pre-recorded prep sessions or your live prep sessions. We can kind of work with that.
Got it. Thanks.
Also, I can jump in too. All sessions, if you have presentation slides, those slides are going to be sent to us in advance. We are going to upload those in advance. So if you're thinking about your slides, we will upload the slide deck for any session prior to the live day, the live session. If there's any edits, I know some folks have edits or need to make certain revisions to their slides for the public, just let us know and we'll make those adjustments as well. In terms of any brochures or flyers or one-pagers or anything like that you want to add, you are welcome to upload those yourself.
When do we get the email? I assume, I don't know if it's one email or two emails, speaker versus attendee.
Yeah, so Corey can kind of talk to this a little bit more. Corey, the speaker email went out this morning.
Yes, I can speak to this, Allison. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Good morning. So for all speakers that have registered through our registration page, you should have received an email this morning with your link to log into this Pathable site. So all of our speakers are getting early access to begin familiarizing yourself with the platform, update your profile, and things of that nature. So if you did not get that email this morning, it likely means you have not yet registered for the conference. So we definitely want to encourage everybody to make sure that you are first registered for the conference, because the only way to get access to this platform will be to first register, and then you'll be imported as a person here and tagged with your session. So if you have any specific questions about that, please feel free to follow up with us afterwards, and we can definitely check on that just to make sure that you are registered and that we have you all set up in the platform.
Awesome. Thank you, Corey. So I will hand it back to you for an overview of the day of.
Sure, no problem. Thank you, everybody. These are really good questions. So, and again, hi, my name is Corey Sunder. I'm part of the NALHFA team here, so I'm happy to be meeting with you all this morning. So I'm just going to switch gears here and talk a little bit more about what to expect on the day of your broadcast. So as Allison mentioned, we will be expecting everybody to join the green room 15 to 20 minutes ahead of your session. In the green room, you will see a number of other people in there. One will be a NALHFA staff member. So as Allison said, you will not be alone in there. You will have a NALHFA staff member with you in there to act as your technical support for the session. They'll be able to answer any questions you have ahead of your session and make sure everybody is prepared to present. We will also have a Pathable support staff member there to assist with any additional technical support, make sure everything is looking good. And you will also see all of your fellow panelists or moderators if applicable. So kind of everybody who will be involved with putting on that session will all be available in the green room ahead of time so that we can all meet and answer any questions. Now, it's important to note that whether your session is live or pre-recorded, we will still ask that you join the green room to check in with staff and confirm that your mics and cameras are working properly. Now, next, I know that some of you here are pre-recording your session and some of you will be doing it live. So we wanted to walk through kind of the different expectations for a live session and a pre-recorded session so that you know what to expect. So first, let's start with a pre-recorded session. Again, your first step is going to be to join that green room 15 to 20 minutes ahead of your session. So still going through that manage button that Allison just showed you. And at the end of that countdown, 20 minutes ahead of the session start time, you will see a button there to join the meeting, and it'll put you in a Zoom meeting just like the one that we are all in now as a co-host. We'll still test mics and cameras, make sure everybody's accounted for, answer any questions. And then before the session begins, we will ask all speakers to mute your line and turn your cameras off. Staff at that time, the NALHFA staff will be playing through the recording of your session. So they'll be managing all of the technical side of that. So all you'll need to do is hang tight until the recording ends. When the recording ends, you'll be asked to unmute your line, turn on your camera, and the session moderator will kick off the live Q&A at the end of the session. Again, a friendly reminder that the Zoom chat will be turned off, so all questions will be in the platform chat box. We do encourage folks, if you have two monitors, please go ahead and use those to have one open with the Zoom meeting and the other one with the chat. Or if you're working off of one screen, you are able to kind of adjust the sizes of your Zoom meeting to have it side by side with the platform, so you'll be able to see the chat and the Zoom meeting. But again, the session moderator and NALHFA staff will primarily be responsible for tracking those questions. So don't feel pressured to have that kind of be your main focus. Your main focus should obviously be on presenting or answering the questions. But in case you want to follow along with the conversation, that is one way we can recommend that you do that. And again, NALHFA staff will be there to assist you with any technical issues. So if you have any difficulty with your camera or mic, NALHFA staff will have full Zoom host capabilities, so we'll be able to assist you if you need it. Next, we'll go over the instructions for a live session. So again, you'll be joining the green room 15 to 20 minutes ahead of your session. But in addition to testing the sharing of your mic and your camera, we will also be testing your screen share. So this is where we'll encourage you to have that presentation open and ready to go so that we can test making sure that you're able to share your screen. If you have any videos you plan on sharing, we'll test the sound for that to make sure that we can hear it properly and provide any other technical support that you may need. If you are planning on doing any breakout rooms during the session, please let us know in advance, and then we can help kind of prepare for that accordingly. NALHFA staff will again be responsible for beginning the broadcast. So we'll be the technical behind the scenes support to actually start the session so that attendees are able to join. but the moderator will be the one to kind of vocally kick things off and introduce the speakers at the session start time. Now, again, the Zoom chat will be disabled, so all the questions are still going to come through that platform chat box. But again, your session moderator and the NALHFA staff team will be the ones primarily monitoring that for any questions. So you can focus primarily on presenting your session, especially since it will be live. We'll also be there to help, guide attendees if they are unsure of how to ask questions or where to direct questions. We'll be the ones to really help make sure they have the correct instructions. And then last, just to touch briefly on the session end time, NALHFA staff and moderators will be the ones tracking time of your session. So again, you can focus primarily on doing what you do best, which is presenting your information or answering live Q&A. A staff person or moderator will step in to note when it is time for the last question, because we do want to call out that the one aspect of a virtual conference to be aware of is that sessions will end promptly at the scheduled end time. And when I say end promptly, it means that the Zoom meeting will end. So it can be a bit abrupt if we're not prepared for that. So it's just something that we'll want to note for you all in advance, so that staff and moderators are tracking time so that we don't have sort of that abrupt ending in the middle of answering a question, and we'll be kind of prepared for that in advance. So that being said, we will stop again here and pause for any questions that anybody has about what to expect the day of your broadcast.
Hey, Corey, this is Jeff Pruitt. Got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure yet what the format of my particular panel is supposed to be. Are we going to be getting any indication on getting together as a group and whether it's going to be recorded prior to and scheduling the date of recording, or if it's everything's supposed to be live?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will defer to Jonathan to go ahead and answer that with regards to your specific session, because I believe it will vary depending on different panels throughout the conference.
That's correct. We are in the process of scheduling and working through each session. As you can imagine, there's 20 plus sessions that we're working on. If you haven't received an email, go ahead and send me an email directly, and I can give you a current status update on your particular session. But to answer your question is yes, all sessions will have an initial planning session call, and then depending on that particular session, it will be determined whether or not it will be recorded in its entirety, recorded with live Q&A the day of, or completely live the day of. So those are three options that we have for each session. And depending on your session, dictates how the day of and how we are proceeding in terms of recording or live Q&A and so forth. So shoot me an email if anybody has not received details, and I can share where we are at this point.
Hi, this is Charlie Root. I had a question. You mentioned sharing the screen. So if we're going to be sharing our screen, we still need to submit the PowerPoint in advance?
No, I can touch on that too, Charlie. What we've been doing, it depends on, again, each session is very unique and each session speakers are unique. And ideally, what happens is that your slide deck will be provided to us in advance, and we will combine all the slides for each panelist, each speaker, in one master slide deck. And if we're recording, someone on staff will advance the slides as we're recording. So that is the format. If we're live, we can also do the same. It's easier, if you will. We'll have staff in each live session. So it helps to have one master slide deck, so we're not toggling back and forth in between speakers and causing delay, because we do have a limited amount of time for each session and want to avoid as much disruption and delay as possible.
This is Sonia Zaderman. A question: if you are not live on that day as represented in the agenda, are you going to be recording on another day for these panel sessions? And when will we know that?
Again, you just shoot me an email and I could share particular details on your particular session if you have not been contacted yet or have not received an email. Again, my email address is jpaine@nalfa.org. Because again, each session is unique. So I don't want
Yes,
to spend.
I understand that, but if you're not going to be live on that day, assuming you're in a recorded session, is that going to be scheduled for another day to record?
Yes.
A different day?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Great questions, everybody. Thank you. I don't see anything in the chat box, but if there's any other questions right now, we can wait and see. But any other final questions on this before we switch gears to doing a general platform review? Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and go back here to our platform, and I'll turn it back over to Allison to walk us through kind of a general overview here of how to navigate through the rest of the sections of the platform here. So Allison, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Corey. So here we're looking at the home page, so you can see a couple of things. We have our banner, and if you scroll down a bit, we have all of our lovely sponsors and our leaderboard, which I'll mention that in just a couple minutes. And then we have some keynote speakers. But let's go back up to the top, actually. So if you click on, if you kind of hover over your name, we're going to go to your profile page. So you'll hover over your name, click the little upside down carrot top, and this will take you to your profile page. We encourage you to upload, a headshot, maybe a bio, your email address, contact information, just so for networking purposes. And then if you go back up to the top, we can go under the people tab. And so we can look at attendees. We can see your fellow attendees. And you can also see your fellow speakers by looking at, these things are called ribbons under here. So you can see that there's a speaker ribbon. So if you want to see who else is speaking at the conference, you can go ahead and check that out. And then we're going to go up to the agenda tab. Oh, excuse me, the schedule tab.
Oh, actually, first, Allison, I just wanted to show really quickly, using the search bar in the top right corner here, you can also filter by a variety of options here. One is by company, by name, and then by ribbon is another option here. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can search and filter too, just by using this search bar at the top rather than scrolling all around.
Awesome. Thanks, Corey.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go up to the schedule tab and we're going to click on agenda. And once you're in here, you'll see these little plus signs. In this case, it's a check. We have some checks, but you'll see some plus signs. And this is where you can add a specific session to your personal agenda. So you can check out, see, oh, I really want to attend this session. And you can add that to your agenda. You can see we have some concurrent sessions, so 2 happening at the same time. So if you would rather see, the single family presentation rather than the multifamily presentation, you can see those are indicated by the yellow bars on the top of each session. So you'll see multifamily, single family, and kind of the policy sessions. So feel free to play around with that and customize your agenda. So then we're going to go back up to the top and click on these. Oh, sorry, Corey. We can also search by the specific track. So if you want to see, say, all the single family tracks, all the single family sessions for the entire conference, you can kind of search that way as well. It's very customizable, so the search bar will be your best friend. So next we're going to go into the sponsor hub. This is where all of our lovely sponsors and exhibitors have their virtual booths. You can see they are categorized by sponsorship level. So we encourage you to go in and schedule meetings with each exhibitor, whether, let's say, you want to schedule a meeting with NALHFA. So this is our sample booth here. You can see the description, and then you can see the folks from each booth. You can see me and Corey and Michaela, who's also on our team. You can kind of reach out to them that way and start a conversation. You can also start a conversation similar to the chat function in your individual sessions. So that is another great way to start a conversation.
Yeah, and I'll just add to Allison too that there's another countdown box here, and that's for our dedicated time every morning for coffee with sponsors. So you see the times for those noted right to the right of the countdown clock. So that'll change to a talk now button when the countdown reaches 0, and you can click that to actually speak to a representative from that company in real time. So from that 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern every day, you'll be able to basically click that button and call or any of the staff for that booth to speak to somebody in a one-on-one Zoom meeting. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of engage with our sponsors, even just within this booth. But you can also always engage with them too by scheduling a meeting, which is under the schedule tab at the top as well, or you can click this button here to schedule a meeting. And you can do this with anybody, whether it's a sponsor, another speaker, an attendee, anybody you'd like to meet with during the conference. So you can always just click this plus sign button here and search for any participants that you would like to meet with. So just another way to highlight lots of different opportunities for engagement while you're at the virtual conference.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lori. Definitely a lot of networking opportunities, so we hope that you take advantage of that. So next on to the fun part, we're going to go up to the top and click on.
Allison, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your audio is sounding a little strange. So if you want, I can actually step in here and just cover the next portion of it. It's just sounding a little bit off. So I'm going to go ahead and cover the next tab here, which is our NALHFA rewards. So this is the gamification aspect of our virtual conference. So as a speaker, you are eligible to win if you choose to participate, but our attendees will all be able to get points for participating in different activities throughout the conference. So as you can see, we've weighted some of the activities a little bit higher to talk now, basically to engage with our sponsors in real time, or to request some more information from sponsors and be scheduling those private meetings. So sponsors are not eligible to win, but otherwise we are encouraging all of our attendees to participate as much as possible. And we'll be selecting some winners at the end of the conference to win a complimentary registration, or our grand prize will receive a complimentary reg plus a 3-night hotel stay for the 2022 annual conference in New York City. So some exciting prizes to win there. The next tab at the top here is conversations. So again, talking about more ways to engage and participate, we do have a social media integration here. So the week of the conference, anybody who's tweeting about the NALHFA 21 conference using our hashtag, your tweets will all be featured here on our social media wall. So be paying attention to that during the week of the conference. And I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of fun engagement there around some of the sessions and information that's being shared. And then we also have an inbox here. So this is going to be your personal inbox for any private messages that you want to be sending to any individuals or small groups during the conference. So all you need to do is click this button here to start a new conversation. I haven't started any yet, but if I had any threads, they would all be appearing here. So if I just click that button, I can start a conversation and select my recipients. So I can say I'd like to talk to Allison. And I can go ahead and hit send. And now I can track my thread of private conversations with Allison. You'll also be able to send messages to individuals if you're looking at their profile under the People tab. So if I were to search for Allison under attendees, I'll see buttons in her profile to send her a message or schedule a meeting with her directly if I'm already looking at her profile. So again, more and more opportunities to be networking, engaging, and talking to each other throughout the virtual platform here. And then our last tab over here is the Help tab. So this is probably also going to be a very highly utilized resource for you throughout the conference in case you ever have any questions that for some reason we're not able to help you with. So the first tab here is that our attendee FAQ, and we have this separated out into different categories to answer some very basic frequently asked questions, particularly if you're looking at the education sessions. There's a lot of questions here about, session recordings, Q&A, notes, lots of different things that I think are very commonly asked questions that we are able to address very easily just on the Help tab here. And then, of course, if you're having any technical issues, you can always click the tech support button here, and then this chat will pop up to communicate directly with the Pathable support staff to help you. We do also encourage you every morning to do a quick system check. So if I hover over my name at the top, there is an option here called system check. So if I click that, and I can click this button here to run checks, it'll do a quick diagnostic of my browser to just make sure that I'm set up for success for the rest of the day and won't have any issues joining a session. We're also hosting an attendee system check. So if you go to the schedule and agenda, you'll see that this is starting at 10:30 on Wednesday morning. This is really just an attendee system check for folks to test joining a session, test using the chat box, making sure that they're comfortable the morning of the first day of the conference, so that when you're all ready to join that opening keynote, you already know how to join a session, you know how to engage with people. And I myself will be hosting that. So I'll be available to help answer any technical questions or issues that might be arising at that time. So Allison, I don't know if you want to try speaking again, if you have anything else to add. We'll see if your audio is working better.
Sound right now?
It's still a little fuzzy, so I think I can probably just wrap up here. I think we've now kind of touched on everything that I can think of within the conference platform here, but I do want to pause again, since we are now at the end of our scheduled agenda, to answer any final questions that anybody may have about anything that we've covered today, whether it's any of these features in the platform, whether it's something specific to hosting a session or your broadcast, any other questions that we can answer, we're happy to do so.
This is Diana, and I've got a question about backgrounds. I know that you all seem to be using the same conference background. Are you going to want us to use that background or just our typical backgrounds?
I can jump in. This is Jonathan again. Yeah, we are absolutely encouraging everybody to use our virtual background.
Okay.
I know some folks, when we're recording and prepping for these sessions, for whatever reason, they're not able to, that's fine. Our preference is to use the virtual backgrounds that we will provide and have provided in advance to all speakers, if possible. If you have reasons in which that's not feasible, that's fine as well.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks, Jonathan.
You're welcome, no
Yeah.
problem.
And that's a feature that we can also help you with in the green room. So if you're joining the green room 20 minutes early and you're having any difficulties pulling up that background, that's something that we can absolutely help you troubleshoot in that green room 20 minutes before your session too. So another reason to make sure that you're joining early so that we can work through any of those kinds of issues that might come up.
Hi, good morning. I have a question. This is Carolyn Kalin. I'm with HUD, Office of Multifamily Housing, and I'm attending in place of my boss, on behalf of my boss, who is one of the speakers. So I was just wondering, with all of the profile information that you have, is that something that I'd be able to update for him, or is it secure based on like a certain login?
Yes, so it is unique to that individual's login. So you would need to have that login information to be able to go in and update the profile for that individual. I will just caution you that the system is set up so that someone can only be logged in with a profile on one device at a time. So if you and the speaker are both trying to log in at the same time, it will kick one of you out. So if you want to log in and update a bio or something like that and then exit out of it, then there shouldn't be any problems. But it's just something to note that there are unique logins for each individual. So it is something to just be aware of. But I think also I'll say for bios and photos, that if we receive any of those in advance, us as NALHFA staff will be updating those for you. So the only reason that you would need to go in to do that would be if you do not provide those to us in advance, or if you want to change it since you sent it to us previously. So just to note that too, if you send it to us, we will be updating that for you.
And just to add on this particular speaker, it's an agency congressional speaker, we can facilitate that for you, particularly that situation is a little bit unique. So you probably would be the one to have that link. So just reach out to either myself or Kevin McKinney, who I believe you've been in touch with, and we'll get you set up and make sure you have access.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm. All right, any other questions from the group at this time?
And Corey, do we want to talk a little bit about the Q&A functions? The chat versus Q&A. I think that might be one thing for folks who are participating in live Q&A the day of.
Sure. So let me pull up our welcome and opening keynote here as our example. So again, walking through the basics of this is the attendee facing side of a session. So you'll see the speaker, a description, and then this is the chat box that we keep referencing here. So as we had mentioned before, the Zoom chat will be disabled for all of the sessions. So while the sessions will all happen in a Zoom meeting, the chat, which you all can see right now in Zoom, will not be working because we'll be having all of our attendee discussion and questions going through the chat tab right here. So this is what attendees are going to be directed to ask a question or to engage with the material in real time. So everything will kind of be filtered through this chat box right here. So that's why we were saying that for our moderators and for our NALHFA staff, they'll be the ones to filter through that chat to keep track of any questions that are coming through there that might be different from folks that are just maybe engaging on the material or saying hi if they're recognizing names of individuals that they're used to seeing at the in-person event. So when the session begins, when this countdown reaches 0, the Zoom video would kind of pop out here, but we usually encourage folks to kind of enlarge that to be a Zoom meeting rather than watching it in a small embedded screen here. It tends to be better quality for audio and for visual to see the slides as well. So for the speakers, it's just a bit of a balancing act between if you want to be keeping up with the chat, which you certainly don't have to, that's what the moderators and staff are for, but that's kind of how it will look and flow during the conference day. So Jonathan, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'll just add, I'll just use an example like that from last year. The single family hot topic session we did ran the full 60 minutes. So if you're a speaker on for a session that we communicate with you, there isn't going to necessarily be any live Q&A time at the end just because of how long the recording went. You can actually be in here in the chat and respond during the live feed, the live recorded feed, and you can respond to folks if you want. So it's optional. Like for instance, I'll just use the single family one from last year. We informed them, the recording went 60 minutes, so that fills up that whole block. So there won't be time for a quote unquote live Q&A, but that doesn't prevent the audience from submitting questions. So you can be in there as a panelist or a speaker and actually respond to them as that is playing, the recording is playing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jonathan. So I just demonstrated that on my screen here, but I'll just walk through briefly what I was doing. So if an attendee question pops up here, what time is it? If I hover over that question, there's an option right here to click reply. So if I were to click reply, it opens up as a thread here where you can see any comments, replies to that particular question. So you would be able to click on that and type your reply directly to the individual who asked that question. So it's an easy way to track also a conversation that's perhaps all on the same topic or all on the same question. And another thing to note is that this chat will be, it's available now. So once attendees start getting access to the platform in about 2 weeks, they can start looking through the agenda and start submitting even questions they might have now, or let's say they think of it later on and they want to go back and add it. This chat box will remain active for folks to continue to engage with. So even if you, let's say you do respond to a question in real time during your session, an attendee can always go back and reply back to you or continue engagement through that same process. So this chat is a really nice feature that will in fact remain active. And so that is why we direct everybody to use this chat box in the platform rather than using the Zoom feature, because it's available, pre, during, and post your session. And it will save so that if folks want to go back and rewatch a recording of your session and see what kinds of questions came up in the chat, all of that will be saved for attendees to go back and reference. And that will be available for 3 months following the conference dates.
Thank you, Corey. Any questions for Corey or the team? Again, if you haven't received a link from us, that means that you're not registered. If you need help with registering, just reach out to myself or Corey or Allison. We'll help you navigate and make sure. And as Corey mentioned, we have your bios and headshots. So we are working on uploading those if it's not already. So if you are in there and you notice that it's not up there, you can feel free to update yourself, but also know we will be creating that profile for you as well. So.
Okay, great. Well, if there's no further questions, thank you all so much for coming today. I hope that this was helpful and beneficial to all of you. And we very much are appreciative of your support of NALHFA and the NALHFA virtual conference. And we are available, of course, anytime if you have any specific questions, comments, concerns, particularly as you're clicking through the platform. So thank you so much for coming today, and we'll see you in May. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.